Hey, thank you for joining Minority Boss today. Hopefully you all had a great weekend. We're going to ask a question today. Is the punishment for minorities more severe than the punishment for non-minorities? And just as a disclaimer, just know that this is not a channel that promotes racism, and discrimination. I'm just sharing facts and statistics and my experience as a minority in hopes that it would help other people maneuver through the workplace and kind of bring awareness to what's going on around them. There's a study, a Harvard Business School study out there, and I'm reading my notes here, that revealed female financial advisors are 20% more likely to be fired for misconduct compared to men. So that lets you know there's a punishment gap right there from that study. And there's another study, a University of Alabama. Now this was kind of interesting, where the person who did the study selected 500 people and divided them up in half. Like half of the people, there was a fictional article that he told all 500 people to read, and half of the people were told that the person that was involved in the sex scandal was Obama. And now this is fictional now. And then the other half was told that the person involved in the sex scandal was what's his name? John Edwards. So, and at the end of the study, it was discovered that the people who read the article with Obama were more likely to punish him for his behavior. Now that was a fictional study. So again, that lets you know that there is a punishment gap between minorities and non-minorities. Now, I haven't really personally experienced that as of yet, and hopefully I don't. Now, what I've experienced is my director, I feel, imposed harsher punishment on me as opposed to the other person, because we did the same thing, was because he and the other person had a better rapport. Their relationship was stronger. So I felt like that other person was able to get away with it, as opposed to me. The punishment was a little harsher. Of course, we overcame that now because, I've developed more relationships. So I think your rapport with people makes a big difference too. If you're close to me, I might let you get away with a little more than somebody who's not as close to me. And I guess that's why people say, you don't know me like that. You hear people say that all the time. Your relationship, your interaction with others can really make a difference. There was a Pakistani worker in the same building that I worked in. He wasn't in my department, but we kind of talked and communicated, and he was having some issues. But to make a long story short, they eventually terminated him because of his performance. But when he told me about it, he said, well, there are others in the group who performed at the same level, or they made mistakes and experienced mishaps too, but they didn't let them go, they let me go. So he felt like that they were discriminated against him because of his, because of his race. I don't know, that's just what he was telling me. Now, and there's another person that got written up because of her performance, as opposed to the other person. It was a black woman and a white woman. They did the same thing, same screw up, so to speak. But the African American lady got written up, but the Caucasian woman did not get written up. And the reason being was, it just happens to work this way in this situation. The African American woman had made this oversight a couple times before and was warned. That's why she was written up. Come to find out later on. And then the Caucasian lady, this was her first time making the oversight, which is why she did get written up. But at first, that was the perception. Then we got understanding later on. I don't know if you've experienced that. You can leave a comment. Do you think that minorities, their punishment is more severe or harsher than the non-minority employees? I mean, when I was growing up, I heard it all my life with our legal system. You hear your parents or people around your friends in your neighborhood or in your culture, they'll say, we're black, they'll lock us up in jail and throw away the key, but that's a white man, they'll just slap him and give him a slap on the wrist. You hear that growing up. So when I grew up, that was kind of in my mind when I first entered into the workplace when it came down to punishment. But thankfully that I've kind of gained a little insight to know that that's not always the case. Now, that is the case in some instances. I'm not oblivious to it, because we do live in a world where there is discrimination, where there is certain perceptions and stereotypes, and there are certain biases. And sometimes our leaders, those things drive our leaders. It really determines how they interact with minorities in some cases. I do know that. But I've had some white managers and who were just very great, got along well with me. So that's not the case in all situations. I have to, fairly assess the situation. But we do have those situations where minorities' punishment is a little harsher than the non-minority. Let me know what you think. Thank you for joining me on Minority Boss, and we'll see you next week.